Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hope you guys are doing good. Thanks for tuning in once again, especially on your Shabbat or your Saturday here. Thanks for you know, the constant support and for you taking the time to do that. I know time is precious, but I'm glad you guys appreciate knowledge, research, and information like this and presentations like this. So it motivates me to keep going more since people are interested in learning it, getting all the perspectives that we didn't get taught in school, or generalized info that we get in the streets and from our so-called scholars. So gonna go over some information I've gone over before today. Still get a lot of Pan-African, a lot of people telling me about such things as Kemetic teachings and spirituality and blah 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 and all this other stuff. Yeah, I've heard it all. We grew up. I grew up in Boston. I mean, we kind of all grew up with the whole Pan-African thing, so we heard it all, especially all this Kemetic stuff. So I'm gonna go over some old excerpts, some videos I put together, just to go ahead and remind everybody, especially my new people and a lot of the, I guess, new trolls, in case they don't know about this information. All right. Thanks for again tuning in. I'm gonna get started today. Hey guys, I'm trying to do at least 2 lives today. Might do 3 lives. Been in the background working on some things. But again, let's go ahead and start with this one today. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. Pura vida. Shout out to all the real ones in the chat. I see you, all the moderators and everything. Thank you for coming through. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate it. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Pura vida.
Not out of Africa. How Afrocentrism became an excuse to teach myth as history. This is by Mary Lefkowitz. Fair use. Thank you for writing this so we can read it. All right, so I'm going to go belly flop to a part in the preface of this book, and she says here, talking about why they focus on Greek history, most of the Afrocentrists. Says here the explanation is that only 160 years ago, it was widely believed that Egypt was the mother of Western civilization. Although shown to be untrue, it's not true. As soon as more information about Egypt became available, the earlier beliefs survived in the mythology of Freemasonry. All right, so Freemasonry was the ones that were giving Egypt the credit. What Egypt? And why Freemasons choosing Egypt?
All right, in the mythology of Freemasonry, that's what kept it, that's what made it popular.
Right, so the mythology of Freemasonry, the Masons believed that their rituals derive from Egypt, but in reality their rituals do not originate from a real Egyptian source. and are not nearly so ancient as they suppose.
Not ancient.
Rather, they derive from the description in an 18th century novel of an Egyptian mystery system, which served as means of providing university-level education and as the source of ancient philosophy. This system, although wholly fictional, was in fact based on Greek sources. All right, get what they're trying to tell you here. All right, we're going to get into this a little bit more, but we know most of the ancient Greek before it was supposedly translated, right, in the 1800s, supposedly the Rosetta Stone, right, we're going to get to that, but before that, supposedly all the history we were getting, it was from the accounts of the Greeks. It was all Greek history we were getting of the Egyptians. All right, but it's really more mythology of Freemasonry, the mythology.
All right, so again, a lot of that, so all that ancient Egypt, a lot of it came from supposedly, Greek sources. And remember, we've been learning what is a so-called Greek. That's not even that's not even as glorified as they made it out to be, this so-called Greek civilization. So, what is your true primary sources, really? Let's keep going.
Masons, right? From an Egyptian mystery system that was actually brought out in the 18th century, meaning the 1700s. This system, although wholly fiction, was in fact based on Greek sources, and although no one knew it at the time, these ancient sources were themselves inaccurate because their authors interpreted Egyptian culture in terms of Greek custom and experience. I remember Egypt was the etymology. It's a Greek word. We're going to get to that. Greek customs and experience terms of Greek.
So, again, and based on Greek or Hellenized ideas, and we're going to see eventually Hermetics.
Although the Egypt, in parentheses, and these accounts never existed. It never existed. What do you mean never existed? You see what they're saying here, right? Wake up. The ancient writers nonetheless believed it, and the Freemasons still talk as if they had some direct connection with it. All right, they say, "Oh, we are the reincarnation of the Pharaoh," blah 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 blah, and that's what they do. We're going to talk about this a little bit too. All right, but they're the ones who are, and they have a lot of power, right? Influence. Because of their conviction that what they are saying is true, their reports can appear credible, especially to people who do not have an extensive knowledge of the ancient world. I just want to read here what she's saying. Continues, says, in the 4th chapter, I explain why certain Afrocentrist writers have come to believe that there was in ancient times an ancient mystery system. I will argue that in reality, this system was an invention of an 18th century French writer, the Abbé Jean Terrasson, right? Look at.
So French, huh? And again, all these Hellenized belief systems, right?
Up. The mysteries he described were in character Greco-Roman. In other words, when Afrocentrists accuse the Greeks of stealing from the Egyptians, the Egyptian ideas that they are describing are not actually Egyptian, but rather Egyptian in parentheses as imagined by Europeans who had no direct or authentic knowledge about Tamari. Remember, it's not even Egypt, it's Tamari of America. Remember, that's why they had to make it up. To say that the Greeks stole their philosophy from Egypt is tantamount to saying that they stole their philosophy from themselves. So she has a point here. She's saying, how could the Greeks have stolen it from the African, right, so-called Egyptians from ancient times, if even the basis of what they're basing their whole modern Egyptology is based off this whole Egyptian mystery system that was created in the 1700s by this French guy, based on what Europeans imagined Egypt to be. As in his influential book, Civilization or Barbarism, which was originally published in French, all right, so he wrote it in French. Is he African? Yeah, he lived in Senegal and they spoke Wolof, but is this an ancient French person, French family? There you are. They're going to read how he is aristocratic. All right, we're going to see. So he wrote it in French in 1981. The Senegalese humanist and scientist Cheikh Anta Diop undertook to construct a usable past for African people.
So yeah, coming from elite family and where he's coming from, I took out all that part because I get into Cheeks and the video I took this expert from. I just want to let you know that we learned he was into a lot of the Sufism and Sufi mystic teachings. That was his background. Um, and he wasn't what he didn't call himself a Pan-African. He was more into the whole mystical part of what we're learning about right now, Egypt, the whole esoteric spirituality of it. And, again, his background, we've gone over it before. You guys can check it out on your own. You'll see where it's coming from. A lot of esoteric as well, mysticism. In his background, as you're going to see, aligns with what we're reading today.
He regarded Egypt as the source of much of what is called Western civilization. He suggested that according to the Greek mythology, the Egyptians brought their civilization to Greece during the time of the 17th or 18th dynasty in Egypt, 1574 to 1293. Diop's suggestion that Danaus was Egyptian is slightly less far-fetched. He was Egyptian in the sense that he was born in Egypt. What Egypt? Again. But according to the myth, his family was actually Greek in origin. His great-grandfather, Epaphus, was born in Egypt after his mother, Lo, the daughter of the river Inachus and Argos, had come to the now Delta. So he's saying these people were actually Greek. All these people he's calling Egyptian, a lot of these people were actually Greek, especially, I'm going to show you, Danaus, actually the brother of Aegyptus, the son of Belus. All right, these are Greek gods, but according to the myth, again, his family was Greek in origin. All right, here's a little figure. She got a little family tree. All right, Zeus, Lord of Libya, Poseidon, so Belus. So Aegyptus' granddaddy is Poseidon, Libya and Poseidon. Belus is dad, Aegyptus, Danaus. Aegyptus and Danaus. But she continues,
So again, the word Egypt comes from the Greek. It's a Greek word, Aegyptus, one of their deities, and it means temple of Ptah. We're going to get that a little bit later. Not a specific landmass in Africa. And when it comes to Danaus, and they're going to read about Cadmus right now, we actually went over who these people most likely were coming from based on the Irish and European annals. They were calling them coming out of Egypt during the Exodus. Yeah, like Israelites, right? Israelites came out of Egypt too, doesn't mean they're Egyptian. Egypt was a place, guys, too. So a lot of people were labeled Egyptians because they were coming out of a region called Egypt. Doesn't mean they were part of that nation. Even as we saw in previous videos when we saw Tefi's origin, Scotia's origin, sorry, her Egyptian part, going back to Ramses and all these people, they went back to Esau, an Edomite, right? Esau. Yeah, they went back to it. So what is an Egyptian? Literally, like what is a Roman? What is a Greek? All that needs to be revision, guys. All that. So again, we're going into mysticism here and Greek mythology. So far, I hope you guys paying attention. There's all Greek mythology where we're supposed to be all African spiritualism, right?
She's saying Diop, the Senegalese, Pan-African, says that he ignores the fact that the Greeks regarded Danaus as a Greek. In the case of the hero Cadmus, he overlooks the Greek tradition that Cadmus came to Thebes in Greece from Phoenicia, not from Egypt, from Phoenicia, which Phoenicia was in Canaan, the Holy Land, again, back home here, right? And accepts instead a hybrid origin. According to Greek belief, Cadmus came from Tyre in Phoenicia, or Canaan, and founded the Greek city of Thebes. Because Diop is also saying that Cadmus is African, right? There's no proof of that. In the book, it says by.
So, like all these Pan-African scholars, yeah, Cadmus, all these people are African, they're just saying it. They cannot prove all this stuff. They're just calling all these people African. And now when it comes to coming out of Phoenicia and Egypt, we're talking about the real Holy Land. We went over this information. Like check out my Danite videos, check out my Israel and the Nations of Europe series. A better perspective, no generalizations, Afrocentric biases, so that's what she's kind of pointing out.
Right now, it should be clear that Diop has supplied his readers only with selected and to some extent distorted information. When he reports what the Egyptian priests told Diodorus, he says nothing about the Greeks' own earlier accounts of their origins, nor does he advise his readers to remember that in any case, all of these stories are myths, not history. As a such, they cannot provide the precise information about the timing of events or the movements of people that we would now like to possess. This is chapter 4, says the myth of the Egyptian mystery system. Even after the 19th century, scholars showed that the reports of Greek visitors to Egypt misunderstood and misrepresented what they saw. The myth that Greek philosophy derived from Egypt is still in circulation. The myth is not only one belief, but it is being taught as if it were the truth, and as if no progress had been made in our knowledge of Egypt since the 18th century. How the myth has managed to survive despite all evidence and scholarship that demonstrates its falsity, it's a fascinating story. In this chapter, I will describe how the notion of Egyptian legacy was preserved in the literature and ritual of Freemasonry. It was from that source that Afrocentrists learned about. All right, that's where they got these Afrocentrists, later to be known as Pan-Africans, right? They got their literature and rituals from Freemasonry, and they learned about it, and then sought to find confirmation for the primacy of Egypt over Greece in the fantasies of ancient writers like Herodotus and Diodorus. In the next chapter, I will discuss how and why in this century Afrocentrist writers went beyond the claims of the Freemasons, who speak only of Egyptian origins and not of deliberate theft on the part of the ancient Greeks. If there were no mystery cults in Egypt, where did the idea of an Egyptian mystery system come from? George G. M. James, the author of Stolen Legacy, appears to have been misled by relying on Masonic literature rather than standard histories of religion as his principal source of information about the Egyptian mysteries. James cites a book written in 1909 by the Reverend Charles H. Vail, a 32nd degree Mason, called The Ancient Mysteries in Modern Masonry. In this book, Vail speaks of public mysteries such as those celebrated by Egyptian priests in the rites of the god Osiris and in the schools founded in Greece by initiates. He quotes directly from only one ancient source, Plutarch's on Isis and Osiris, which he claims is a description of the mysteries of Isis. With a lot of these mystery teachings, and when they're talking about, this religion that started Christianity, that all started in Egypt, all that stuff, that most of that literature comes out of Thoth. That's who the source is. All right, let me just read something before we go on. It says here, on the 42 books of philosophy, cataloged by Clement. Remember, these 42 books were written by Hermes or Thoth. All right, we got this in my Thoth video. Go check it out. The principal source of the notion that there was a corpus of Egyptian philosophy derives from yet another, and even later source, the so-called Hermetica, or Discourses of Hermes. All right, Hermetica, Hermetic teachings. These are writings that were supposed to have been composed at the beginning of time by Hermes the Thrice Great, or Trigemistus, grandson of the god Hermes, who was identified with the Egyptian god Thoth. All right, Thoth. The pagan writer Iamblichus, who believed that these discourses were authentic, says that one of the authors he consulted knew of 20,000 and another 36,525 such treatises, but the 2,000 discourses attributed to Hermes that have come down to us are not even Egyptian at all. So the ones they've verified, rather, they are treatises written in Greek centuries after the deaths of the famous Greek philosophers they purport to have inspired. So they actually verified some of these documents or whatever scrolls, and they found that they're actually written by Greek people. As Isaac Casabon showed in 1614, this small collection of writings could not be as early as Iamblichus and other ancient writers thought, because its authors were much influenced by the very writers that Hermes the Thrice Great was supposed to have inspired, especially Plato and his much later followers, the Neoplatonists, not to mention the Hellenistic Hebrew writers known as the Gnostics. All right, Hellenistic. There is no record of any Egyptian language original from which they were derived. Listen to this. This is deep. All right. They start creating this whole ancient Egypt. It was all here in Temerium, split up between our stories, split up in different. It became known as so-called Egypt, this mystery Egypt, right? That they created. These secret societies. There was no record of any Egyptian language original from which they were derived, and it is clear from both their style and their vocabulary that they could not have been composed without the conceptual vocabulary and rhetoric developed by the Greek philosophers in the 4th century BC. It's all Greek. Hermetic teachings, Masonic teachings. Continuing in the book, it says here, a striking quality of Freemasonry, it's its imaginative attachment to the religion and symbolism of the Egyptians. The Egypt to which the Masons referred to, of course, an imaginary one, but this was the Egypt that was rediscovered in the Renaissance for convenience, all right? It was an imaginary one, the one they taught us. I shall call it mystical Egypt. to distinguish it from the historical Egypt that was first explored scientifically and understood only in the 19th century. They're talking about when they actually went into that place over there, they call it Egypt he's talking about. But other than that, the ancient one, they didn't know anything about that. It was all imaginary. Listen to what they're telling you. Remember, they didn't know how Egypt started. It was a legacy. Remember, it's all a mystery. That's what they told us all our life. So again, she's going to call it a mystical Egypt. European writers learned about mystical Egypt from the writings of the church fathers. They knew the Hermetic treatise known as Asclepius because it had survived in Latin version, and they supposed that it was one of the books of Hermes to which Clement of Alexandria referred in his description of the procession of Egyptian priests. So around 1460, when a Greek manuscript containing most of the Hermetic treatises was brought to Florence, Cosimo de' Medici thought that it was more important to translate them than the works of Plato because Egypt was before Greece. Hermes was earlier than Plato. As a result of this huge historical error, the Hermetic corpus was given serious attention, and its fictions were widely accepted as truth. All right, Hermetic teachings, remember, all that comes from Thoth. Although the theology of Hermetica, now why keep saying Thoth? What's the significance of Thoth? You're saying, well, Thoth is Egyptian. No, Thoth is actually what? He said it himself. From where? Atlantis, or in the Book of the Dead, he's a Westerner. He's a Western from a distant Western land. He was from a land where he lived in a city and a lake, and there was two volcanoes there. There were volcanoes in the city and the lake. All right, that doesn't exist in Egypt today. There's no volcanoes there. Get what I'm telling you? So Thoth, he known the Emerald Tablets, he was Atlantean. All right, where's Atlantis? So-called Atlantis. We're talking about ancient America. We're talking about the Western Ethiopians, as the Greeks would call the Amarukas, the Western Ethiopia. Continuing in the book, not out of Africa. It says here, although after 1614 it became known that the books of Hermes were not what they appeared to be, and some 200 years after that, it was shown definitely that Horapollo's interpretation of hieroglyphics were wrong. The fundamental notions of Egypt expressed in these works and in the Renaissance philosophy connected with them were preserved in Freemasonry. The Masons believed that their initiation rituals was dated from the earliest times and that it was modeled on the mysteries of Egypt and of other ancient countries. They preserved as part of their own secret symbolism alchemical science, again, alchemy, science and hieroglyphics, that is, hieroglyphics as interpreted by Horapollo. One of these is familiar to everyone in this country. It is the Great Seal of the United States, the unfinished pyramid, whose detached top is an eye surrounded by brilliant rays. Some of our founding fathers were Freemasons, including George Washington himself. The Treasury Department now explains that the pyramid is unfinished because the government is new, and that a sunburst and the eye above the pyramid standing for the deity. Why did they choose these particular symbols? As Masons, they wish to emphasize their connection with the great civilization of Egypt. The explanation of the eye surrounded by a sunburst can be found in Horapollo. The eye of the hawk symbolizes sublimity and divinity, and it is associated with the sun because of the sharp-sighted rays of its vision. In Masonic symbolism, an eye and a triangle radiating rays of light stands for the grand architect of the universe, the architect. So we have this supposed Freemasonry of the ancient Egyptians, which really came about in the 1700s. All right, again, this is all from the Hermetic libraries, right? We already learned what Hermeticism and where that comes out of. In this book, it says here from Manly P. Hall, most of you know a lot of this esoteric, following of these people like Manly P. Hall and Aleister Crowley and all that. It says here Freemasonry of the ancient Egyptians. It says here there are two sections of this volume, each of distinct significance. The first is Hall's essay, Freemasonry of the Ancient Egyptians, which is principally analysis of the Osiris legend. We're given some references to Atlantean civilization. The analysis is sober and comprehensive, but the most worthwhile part is Hall's own proposed interpretation, which constitutes a few final pages of the essay. Again, all these ancient Egyptian teachings that we had, it always has been based upon this Europeanized view or this Masonic view of what they pictured ancient Egypt like, and their legends, right? And a legend. All right, so it says the second part of the book is publication of the Krata Repoa. Now, this is important, the Krata Repoa. What's the Krata Repoa? Basically, very influential to a lot of other secret organizations or societies or orders, the Krata Repoa. In particular, the Rosicrucians, we're going to see. It says an 18th century manuscript purporting to detail the initiatory system of ancient Egypt. All right, supposedly. So this came about when? The 18th century, was that 1700s? Right, 1700s. It was purporting, supposedly, to detail how it was in ancient Egypt. Krata report first appeared anonymously in German in the late 18th century, drawn on a wide range of classical sources for its details. Some of those sources were sympathetic to the ancient mysteries, but others were certainly hostile. Given the strict laws of secrecy that surrounded the classical rites, we can only assume that the best informed and most sympathetic accounts from antiquity were never disclosed. The English text published by Hall is based on John Darker's translation from the French of Anton Baillieu, who published his version in 1778, 1700s. All right, it's when this all started, this whole ancient Egyptian perspective that they gave us. In the Krata Repoa, all right, it says here, or initiations into the ancient secret society of the Egyptian priest. 1785. Look at this. Nick Farrell, Rome, 2009. He translated it. It was written in the 1700s. It says the introduction. This small and largely forgotten work was influential in the development of the Western mystery tradition. Western mystery traditions of the mystery schools, the secret orders, concepts, and the belief in the idea of a particular type of initiation system or the mysteries were first formed by this text. All right, Hermetic. Historically, its claims are bogus or unlikely, but have been upheld by groups that used it as a template, including the European esoteric Freemasonic groups. These in turn influenced the English-speaking Rosicrucian Orders, the Rosicrucian Orders, all of them. The Rosicrucians, we're going to see who was under the Rosicrucians, including the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order. This is Aleister Crowley and all these people that were in it. I forget what this means, but this is another order of Aleister Crowley that was in the ancient Masonic order of the something like that, Rosicrucians. And we're going to read a book of theirs letting us know that ancient Egypt was really in America. Ancient Egypt was really in America. Builders of the Aditum and Dion Fortune. The book was popular in Germany, and I was given a German copy by the Sodalitas Rosicrucis and Solis Alae. And we continue to have this website here, the squaremagazine.com. It says Freemasonry and Egyptomania. Look at this image right here. Freemasonry and Egyptomania.
Wow, hey, welcome. We live, I'm here, reading the chat as we go along, Hope you guys enjoying the presentation, understanding what's being said, not just what I'm reading and what others have said and what others have researched, and this guy knows this and this other guy knows this. It doesn't matter what anybody else said or has done. Do you understand? Based on your knowledge, do you understand what I'm showing you? Don't go all over the place. We got a specific subject. Hopefully you do. We're not done yet.
It says here, however, the Egyptian rite says, however, probably the largest influence on Freemasonry with regards to its possible Egyptian roots were the free thinkers of the Age of Enlightenment. In Europe during the mid to late 1700s, again in the 1700s, a revival of the Renaissance, Hermetism, Hermetic teachings, right? Hermetism and alchemy. Alchemy, again, became the rigor with irregular offshoots of Masonry sprouting across the continent. Much of the Egyptian revival Freemasonry, spirituality, and theory was in fact merely a mixture of Christianity, Judaism, Kabbalah, and alchemy. Kabbalah, Kabbalistic, Kabbalah. It's all the same. It's all from the Krata report. It's all from this 1700s Masonic mythology, right? Freemasonic mythology, as we learned earlier. A mixture with mixing a little bit of Christianity, Judaism, Kabbalah, and alchemy, none of which had any proven basis in the roots of actual ancient Egypt. None of them can prove they were talking about ancient Tamari, the real Tamari. or what they created this idea out of Egypt, this place that they were envisioning, this beloved land, to marry this beloved land, this promised land, this ancient fertile soil of a great river, great place, right? Civilization that had plenty of corn and all that. They were envisioning, they created this Masonic mythology and created this Egypt, this Greek version of Egypt, right? So they can, there's nothing to prove their basis in the ancient roots, and we're more from a romanticized notion than factual base. All right, this core group of.
So, real quick, a little bit of a mixture of Judaism and Christianity and Kabbalah. So you already know the Chazars. The Chazars got their hands in this too, and let's keep going.
European Masons were proponents of the purported esoteric origin of the order. They added Freemasonry to the melting pot of traditions, religions, and mystical thought that had been brewing since the Renaissance, including the idea that alchemy and the Hermetic arts had filtered down from the teachings of ancient Egypt. They made that up. They brought that out in the 1700s. They made it up. They said it started in Egypt. They made that up.
They made it all up.
See the pattern? There's a lot of people saying this, showing you. The concept of ancient initiatory or mystery schools was too enticing to pass up, and it became the focus point of various new Masonic rituals with a supposedly Egyptian theme. The combination of theurgy, the invocation of a deity, and Freemasonry was present in various new rituals. The Rite of Mizraim, 1738, Martinez de Pasqua's Order of Ilus Cohen, 1767, Cagliostro's Egyptian Rite, 1784, and later a variant on Mizraim's The Rite of Memphis, 1838, which further morphed into the ancient and primitive Rite of Memphis, Mizraim, in 1889. You see, it started getting popular during these times with these orders, these secret societies. There was no real.
All right, so real quick, it's like a secret society cosplay. They just dressing up and doing rituals, and it's Egyptian themed, based on a fake Egypt, not the true Tamari of ancient America. This is what the point is right here in this part. I'm gonna keep going. It says here there was no real connection to ancient Egypt. All right, that's where we're gonna start off right here. And this ain't about anti-anything. This is just information. All right, so I don't know what you mean by that. Anti-Kemetism. Kemet is not. Kemet means rich black soil. Come on, man. We're gonna have to go over that again later. Let's go.
Real connection, people. Listen, there was no real connection. All you Pan-Africans, there's no real connection to ancient Egypt or Tamari or over here in America within any of these rituals. The etymology of many of the Egyptian words are often portmanteaus or corruptions of existing mystical phrases, or in other cases, inventions by the authors. Inventions by the authors, they're Greek words, most of them. This is further compounded when one considers the language of hieroglyphics had not yet been deciphered until much later via the crucial breakthrough of Thomas Young and Jean-Francois Champollion, and even then were not widely published. So that was a big point right there. You got to emphasize on that, right? Listen, if you guys don't understand, Europeans supposedly didn't know anything about Egypt or even how to read or interpret hieroglyphics before the 1830s.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that? So how are they interpreting ancient Egypt in the 1700s if they couldn't read it?
How?
This is what he's talking about.
Tell me how.
How are they deciphering stuff? They hadn't even learned how to supposedly decipher it, because they only learned it through the supposed Rosetta Stone that they found, right? Napoleon and the French. Now that's a whole mystery right there. All right, that we're gonna get into and investigate. But again, he made a point right here. How did they have all this knowledge of ancient Egypt where they couldn't even read hieroglyphics? Supposedly, in mainstream. From these facts, one can logically surmise that at the time most of these rituals were written, they contain no evidence-based wisdom of the ancients. Much of the content had its roots in hybridized blend of biblical, Kabbalistic, or alchemical symbolism. The Rite of Memphis even managed to combine elements from Templarism and chivalry with Egyptian and alchemical symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
Quasi-Masonic orders were incredibly influential amongst the occultists and more spiritual Freemasons, and by the fin de siècle in the early 1900s, the New Age had well and truly dawned, the melting pot on the verge of boiling over. From the traditional history of regular Freemasonry, a many-headed hydra had been created, one that would invariably lead Freemasonry as an organization into centuries of ill repute. To add insult to injury, Aleister Crowley, all right, Aleister Crowley, the figure later dubbed the wickedest man in the world, would attach himself to the perimeters of Freemasonry. Why is he called the wickedest man in the world? From the fusion of two rites of Mizraim and Memphis and the ensuing intervention of John Jarker and Theodore Roos, the rites metamorphosed once again into the quasi-Masonic mixed gender Ordo Templi Orientis. All right, that's what the OTO meant. Again, that was from all these people as the founders. You see, it's all based on the same kind of Sokokrata report or this ancient Egyptian Freemasonry, which is really holistic Hermetic teachings that were revived in the 1700s. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was another short-lived esoteric Masonic-styled order founded by Freemasons William Wynne Westcott and Samuel Lyndon McGregor Mathers, both members of the Societas Rosicruciana. You see, Rosicrucian in Anglia. Aside from the rituals, the European Freemasons lapped up anything that hinted of Egypt. Jean-Abbé Terrasson's novel Life of Setos, taken from private memoirs of the ancient Egyptians, 1731, was an elaborate work of fictional fantasy. It's a fictional book, all right, and was a source of inspiration for Mozart's opera The Magic Flute, which combined both masonry and ancient Egyptian symbolism. Mozart also wrote incidental music for Thamos, King of Egypt, a play by Tobias Philipp, Baron von Gebler. Count Cagliostro, creator of the Egyptian rite and self-styled Grand Copta, held seances in his Egyptian-themed salon in Paris. You hear all these people just playing make-believe. Goethe, 1749 to 1832, even wrote a play about it, all in 1792, entitled Der Grosse Copta, the Grand Copt. All right. So you want to fact check any of this? Feel free to let me know how it goes. It says the ancient and mystical order of the Rosicrucians. And just to correlate, it says here the Rosicrucian movement, of which the Rosicrucian Order, AMORC, is the most prominent modern representative, has its roots in mystery traditions, philosophy, and myths of ancient Egypt, dating back to the approximate 1500 BC. So that's the hijack. All right, we just realized, we just read, it was actually from the 1700s. So this is what they were trying to do. This is how they get their initiates and recruit people. Talking about it's from the 1500s BC. All right, so well, this brings us over to, I could keep going about the links of Freemasonry and the ancient Egyptian, you know.
So pay attention to all those Pan-Africans out there. Still, we got a lot of Pan-Africans, they're holding on to their beliefs strong. It's okay, man. Beliefs, religion, that's your thing. Nobody's telling you not to, go with your beliefs, But the thing is, we deal with facts here and historical stuff. We're not dealing with religious mindsets, and that's what that basically a lot of people do with this stuff. So again, black land, what does that mean? You guys were always saying that meant the black people, the black complexion, the people that live there in Egypt, Africa, blah, 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 black power, blah, blah, blah. That's not what it meant. Kemet means rich, fertile, black soil, not a specific landmass in Africa. Okay, let's just get this drop real quick right here from old school Kurimeo. Let's go.
Perspective they gave us, its whole history that they gave us, and the connection of all these Hermetic teachings in ancient Greeks, really telling us the story. But it brings us to Kemetism, right? We know Kemet is black soil. We just saw the word definition, the etymology. It has nothing to do with a landmass in Africa. So what is Kemetism then? If it has nothing to do with a landmass in Africa, what is Kemetism? Now, there's three forms of this, all right? Let's go over this.
So again, I didn't go over it. So again, Kemet means rich. We're gonna go over it at the end real quick, but Kemet means rich, black, fertile soil. And a lot of the times, well, they're talking about the rich Nile Delta. Nile means great river. We have a great river too, and we have a great river that actually has floodplains as well and deltas, very fertile deltas. The Mississippi is one of them. Amazon, the Orinoco. We have so many rivers here, and we have so much rich black fertile soil. We even have the whole Amazon called Tierra Prieta or black soil, and it's made by humans. They don't know how they did it. Read up, man. You got to study up, and let's not be biased and stuck on old indoctrinations. We got to see when we're stuck on old indoctrinations. We've got to know when we got to realize when we got to let go, learn to let go of old information and follow the truth, follow the facts. That's why we keep growing, you keep learning. You're always a student. You never stop learning. And this ain't personal. People don't understand. People come and attack me, don't understand. Just trying to help you see things a little different. You know, maybe somebody's been making you go in a different direction this whole time. You and a couple of your generations for a while now, and it's time to really, really wake up. Really, really wake up. What is Kemetism?
Real quick, it says Kemetism from Kemet, the native name of ancient Egypt, right? Native, remember that means black soil. So they're not talking about Africa. It's a term for Neopagan revivals. A term for Neopagan, New pagans, revivals of ancient Egyptian religion, which developed in the United States from the 1970s. All right, this came about in the 1970s. This ain't ancient at all. There are three main groups, each of which take a different approach to their beliefs, ranging from eclectic to polytheistic reconstructionists. Now, the first one says here is Kemetic Wicca or witchcraft, right? Kemetic Wicca, also Tamari Wicca from Tamari, land of the two riverbanks. Another native term for Egypt, Tamari, is an eclectic approach combining ancient Egyptian elements with Wicca, a religion based on pagan practices which utilizes witchcraft. All right, does that have to do with anything? Now, this one says Kemetic revivalism and reconstruction. A reconstructionist which include academic approaches informed by Egyptology, notably Kemetic orthodoxy. Right now, Kemetic teachings and orthodoxies of the actual religion of Kemetic orthodoxy is actually funded by Tamara El Suida, a white lady, and Carrie Wishner's Akhet Hawat Hawar. And this is Tamara El Suida right here, as you can see. All right, this is Tamara. She's the founder of Kemetic orthodoxy or religion. And yeah, she'd be having people dress up, but that's her right here. That's this white lady, the founder of Kemetic orthodoxy, Kemetic religion, right? Tamara El Suida, okay? Now the third they say is the Asr Asid of Ra Un Nefer Amen. All right, it's a syncretic Pan-Africanist approach targeted at the African diaspora, targeted at you, so-called African American, at the African diaspora. History and demographics says Kemetic revivalism appears in the 1970s with the rise of Neopaganism in the United States. The Church of the Eternal Source, promoting New Age receptions of Egyptian spiritualism, founded in 1970, and the Asr Asid Society, promoting Pan-Africanism, founded in 1973. All right, that started when? In 1973. Asr Asid Society. Who is this and what does that have to do with any of this? And Pan-Africanism and Kemetic today, Kemetic teachings. It says Tamara Suida's Kemetic orthodoxy, remember the white lady, following in the late 1980s, and Carrie Wisner's Akhet Kemetic reconstructionism in the 1990s. All right, this is where they get all this Kemetic stuff from. The movement is composed of a mixture of New Age, Wicca, and Afrocentrism, the latter in the context of Afrocentrist Egyptology, which emerged in the United States in the 1990s. You're stuck in the 1990s.
Yep.
You're Pan-African, that's Afrocentrist Egyptology.
Yep.
This emerged in the 1990s, making ancient Egypt a black culture. All right? Oh, you see what they're saying? So-called black. This correlated says here in the late 1980s, Kemetism had become so popular in the United States that its adherents began to organize, create institutions, and develop different branches of the faith. In particular, an early leader of the movement was Tamara El Suida, who will ultimately become responsible for the development of Kemetic orthodoxy. All right? Personal Kemetic shrine. Says here, as a college student, Suida was a follower of Wiccan rituals. She was a witch, Wiccan, during a Wiccan initiation, right? She experienced a powerful connection with what she later understood to be several ancient Egyptian deities. She said she got in contact with the ancient pharaohs. That's just like the other, um, uh, like Blavatsky and all that, Aleister Crowley and all them. They said they talked to these ancient Egyptian deities. Are these really fallen angels? What are these things they're talking to? This led her to deepen her knowledge and interest in Kemetism, and ultimately she founded Kemetic Orthodoxy in 1989.
Right. So just one of these ascended masters of Blavatsky was actually Jamal Afghani, a real person. That was one of her master teachers, master spiritual adepts, and eventually he became one of her master ascended masters. He told people he was, a spirit, but he was a real person, and same person that met and in Egypt, initiated Thomas Drew, also known as Noble Drew Ali. All right, check out the videos I've done on this, guys. This is all the same kind of people, same kind of all these people coming out and creating these movements, coming out of the same philosophy, same teachings, same backgrounds. All right, hope you guys are starting to see the patterns throughout the years. This is why I'm doing this again.
We got the other one, that's the Asr Asid Society of Un Nefer Amen. So first of all, who is Un Nefer Amen? Says here, Un Nefer Amen, born Rogelio Alcides. Rogelio Alcides Strong. On January 1944, is the founder of the Asr Asid Society, a Pan-African spiritual organization dedicated to providing Afrocentric-based spiritual training to people of African descent. All right, so to African descent, Afrocentric-based spiritual, Afrocentric, really? Is that what you guys are teaching in the Asr Asid Society, Afrocentric stuff? Or Afrocentric-based spirituality, really? Are you sure it's not no Greek Hermetic stuff? Are you sure it's not none of that? All right, so Rogelio Alcides Strong. So we're in the Encyclopedia of Black Studies. Encyclopedia of Black Studies. So it says here that Un Nefer Amen I was born Rogelio, again, Alcides Strong. Rogelio in Panama, so he's Panamanian. Rogelio, that's a Spanish name, right? Rogelio, all right? The so-called Un Nefer Amen I was actually a Panamanian born Rogelio Alcides Strong. And real quick, Strong history, family crest, coat of arms. Strong is a Scottish and Irish surname. Strong is an Irish and Scottish surname. So when I say Strong, and he's a Pan-African now, and now he was born in Panama. Now you tell me, can you prove to me he goes all the way back to Africa? Now it says he was raised by his mother and stepfather. So this ain't his dad. The Strong is not him, according to what it says here. His mom is Goody Koo, and Bertram Strong is the dad. Goody Koo and Bertram Strong. So I did a little bit of genealogy. I can't find anything on a Goody Koo or that word or anything to do in Panama. Nothing. Even the Bertram Strong is difficult to find, because this is supposed stepfather. He attended the Conservatory of Music, where at age 6 he studied piano and music theory. As a child, he also read periodicals and texts. His grandfather's Panama's first dental surgeon. So his grandfather was Panama's first dental surgeon. That's a very important job. These are people who are well off. This is not a peasant poor family. Slave family doesn't sound like yet. All right, his grandfather was Panama's first dental surgeon, who had become nearly blind. He read to his grandfather Times Magazine, Newsweek newspaper equivalent to New York Times, and philosophy texts such as Plato's Republic. As a Strong attended a high school that produced Panama's president. So he went to a very elite high school. Strong. He's from a well-off family. You hear what I'm showing you, right? Where he studied history, political science, music, and literature. He read the works of Che Guevara, Pablo Neruda, and Jose Marti. As the youngest member of the Federation of Panamanian Students, he protested with the peasants who fought against Panama ceding land to Costa Rica. After coming to America with his parents in 1960, he protested against the Vietnam War with Students for a Democratic Society. He also continued his spiritual search in 1962. He completely changed his diet after learning about the effects of vitamins and minerals on health. He concluded that divine spiritual potency combined with healthy living could solve the world's problems. During the 1960s, he participated in various Black Power organizations, Black Power, until he established his own group based on achieving higher realms of consciousness. Osir members attempt to live according to divine laws from ancient theologies. All right, so Rogelio, this Panamanian guy, founded the Osir Society, another word for Osiris, Osir, right? Supposedly, so just again, it says here that it's a Pan-African religious organization. It's a religious organization. Again, religious. A lot of Pan-Africans try to come at the Hebrews or anybody using religion, and they're also a religious organization founded in 1973 by Un Nefer Amen for the purpose of providing members a societal framework through which the Kemetic spiritual way of life can be lived, and to promote Rosicrucian values. Again, Rosicrucian values, the Rosicrucian Masonic order. Remember, the Rosicrucian comes from the Krata Rapport. Remember, that's all Hermetic teachings. Remember, that's all Freemasonry. This is the foundation of all this supposed ancient Egypt, which was myths based on mythology, which was all Freemasonry symbology. So, wait a minute, Osir Society, Pan-African? Wait, promoting Rosicrucian values? Rosicrucian values. You seeing this? All right, so we're in encyclopedia.com, and it says here the Osir Society. It says the Osir Society, a Rosicrucian body. All right, a Rosicrucian order, a Freemasonic, esoteric, this mythological ancient Egypt, this mythological, this fake Egypt, its Hermetic teachings. This Rosicrucian body, especially oriented to meet the needs of African Americans, was founded in the mid-1970s by R.A. Strong, Rogelio. Okay, his name was Rogelio. He's mi compa de Panama. Strong, formerly the head of the Rosicrucian Anthropological League. He was what? R.A. Strong, Rogelio Strong was what? The head of the Rosicrucian Anthropological League in New York City.
What?
All right, he was the head of it. Did you know that?
Did you?
Oh, you thought it was all about Africa and African spirituality, right?
Oh, you thought it was all about Mama Africa, huh? Yeah, they infiltrated hard, and they got you hard. Yup.
You thought he was just bringing back the ancestors' religion, right? You thought that he was so he was just promoting Africa, right? But he's from Panama, from a well-off family in Panama, right? With an Irish, Scottish surname, Spanish name, right? And he's a Rosicrucian follower, esoteric. When you go into the study of who he is, he was very esoteric. He taught a lot of, they're saying that he had a lot of esoteric writings, and he was like a yogi. He was all into the whole Hindu culture as well, very yogi, meditative, Hermetic teachings, all that.
Just like the founder of Rastafarianism, the first Rastas. Make sure to check out that video. Again, coming from the same kind of background, these founders of these movements, guys. It's not a coincidence they made you look to Africa, and it made a whole Afrocentric history for every so-called Black person in the world, especially so-called African Americans. They even put the African in front of the American, right? They put that on you guys, erasing paper genocide and everything, your whole history, your individual history, your own families, what they told you, their oral traditions, and you forgot what grandma told you, what grandfather told you. Because they brainwashed you with all this esoteric Egyptology, Kemetic, right? They hit them hard in the 80s and 90s, hit the people hard, and that's why it's so widespread now, and then you got gatekeepers still speaking about this, the same people with their esoteric backgrounds still doing the same thing.
Rogelio, yes, very little information can be found, and trust me, I tried. All right, but he was definitely the head of the Rosicrucian Anthropological League in New York City. It says under his adopted name, Un Nefer Amen, has written a number of occult texts text on Hermetic, again Hermetic, Hermetic, again Hermes, Thoth, and Eastern religions. What does he know about this? You know he's a Freemason. He also developed a unique tarot card deck. The program of the society is directed to people of African origin, and its literature regularly integrates more familiar cult themes with material specific to African American, emphasizing lessons in African American history and the accomplishments of Africans. All right, so he's basically letting you know straight up that he targeted so-called black people in America. He targeted with this Rosicrucian teachings, esoteric hermetic occult teachings. So the Rosicrucian Anthroposophic League, Harlem, all right? It says that it's filed to be a nonprofit corporation on March 8th, 1935. That's how long it's been there, since 1935. So yeah, it's real. The Rosicrucian Anthroposophic League. Continuing, it says here, the Rosicrucian Anthroposophical League. It says the Rosicrucian Anthroposophical League was founded in 1932 by Samuel Richard Parchman, an astrologer and occultist who trained with Max Heindel. All right, who's Max Heindel? During the 1920s, Parchman became a leader in the Rosicrucian Fellowship, founded by Heindel, which publishes early writings. However, he broke away from the fellowship after Heindel's death and formed an independent organization out of the former Fellowship Center in San Francisco. Parchman is best remembered as the author of classic textbooks of astrology, mundane, and spiritual, which was used by many astrologers not affiliated with the League and later reprinted by the American Federation of Astrologers. All right, so let me just go down here. It says here that after Parchman's lifetime, League centers developed in both coasts, but in recent years, little has been heard of it. Its present status is unknown. It says here that in the 1970s, though, the New York League became the independent Asser Society. The New York part of the Rosicrucian Anthropological Society became the Asser Society. Rosicrucians, the Rose Cross, all right, the Rosicrucians and all the history behind it. All right, that's the hijack. It's going to talk a little bit about some of the fraternities of the Rosicrucians. This is one of them. Several Rosicrucian groups have direct lineage from the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky, right? The largest one being the Rosicrucian Fellowship, funded by Max Heindel. So he was coming from Blavatsky's teachings. Max Heindel, who actually helped influence what? The other Rosicrucian Anthroposophic Society League. Heindel, born Carl Louis von Grashoff, was an engineer whose occult interest led him to the Theosophical Society shortly after the beginning of the century. By 1905, he was a Theosophical lecturer. Then in 1907, he traveled to Germany, where he appeared to him several times, one whom he described as an elder brother of the Rosicrucian Order. He was sent to work with a knowledgeable teacher believed by most to have been Rudolf Steiner, founder of the Anthroposophical Society. You see where all this is coming from? And this turned to the Asser Society, Pan-Africanism, Kemetic. Listen. So what is the point, Kurimeo? Well, the point is, where's all that so-called African history when all this was just mysticism? Even the other dude, Diop, remember he was from the Muslim mystic order, mysticism, mystic order, who's going to lead back to the same people. Same people, these Persians, these same people, these Theosophical Society of Blavatsky, it's the same people she learned from that went out into the Muslim Islam world. Same people.
Future videos.
So where's ancient Egypt really when the supposed real one is all a myth? It's all Freemasonry symbolism. It's all Hermetic teachings. It's all hijack. So Un Nefer Amen, right? So what's his significance? Well, to accomplish this goal, he has written and published several books on the subject of ancient Egyptian philosophy and spiritual culture, most notably the Metu Neter and the Metu Neter Oracle, the Metu Neter. All right. So I clicked on Metu Neter and it brought me to Egyptian hieroglyphics. How does that happen? Right.
So you guys saw that I clicked on Metu Neter and it brought me to a wiki page where it's talking about Egyptian hieroglyphics. What is that? So Metu Neter. All right. So all that Kemetic stuff, Jabari. And all the people like Jabari talking about Kemetic spiritualism, and he's talking about this pharaoh came with this thing. He wrote about this illuminous guarding all of us and all this blah 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 jargon, man. You gotta know when the snake speaks too, guys. You gotta understand. You gotta understand it's time. Like we're in 2024. Like, Cat Williams told you. Did it have to be Cat Williams? I've been trying to tell you. Yeah, hey, James been trying to tell you for years. Hey, James, what's up? A lot of people's been trying to tell you for years. You know, kind of wake up. So again, that is the whole background of the Metu Neter, the author of that, this Rosicrucian. All right, this whole Rosicrucian who targeted so-called African Americans, a Greek mythology-based Egyptology, esoteric Hermetic, Hermetic we called it. When Kemet again means rich black soil, has nothing to do with a landmass in Africa.
So I actually got volume 1 of Metu Neter volume 1 here by Un Nefer, aka Rogelio, mi compa Rogelio de Panama. Rogelio. Rogelio, man, he was from an elite family in Panama. I want to see his African genealogy. Somebody please prove it to me. Now, and
So yeah, I did this video a long time ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm still waiting for his genealogy to, show me that his African ancestors, this guy who founded all this, Metu Neter and all this Ausar, Almon Ra, and all this whole Pan-African Kemetic stuff.
his book Metu Neter Volume 1 by Un Nefer, right here. I just want you to I wanted to point out something, that a lot of these translations that they're getting, they're so-called hieroglyphics translations and interpretations, like these Rosicrucian, these esoteric teachers, right? These Freemasons. It's actually from a lot of these same people, as in their same people, Germans, these Jewish people, these Germans, Nazi people. Like one of them is Adolf Ehrman. Adolf Ehrman. So Adolf Ehrman and Hermann Grappel says the hieroglyphic dictionary of Ehrman and Grappel in the 6 original volumes. This is a translation of it again. It's in the 1800s, and this is in German right here. So this is again written by that guy Ehrman and Grappel. It says that this dictionary is one of the greatest intellectual achievements of the 20th century, albeit known to few outside of Egyptology. Indeed, it is probably the greatest single achievement ever accomplished in Egyptological textual studies. All right, so again, they give the credit to these two guys right here, this Jewish German guy, Adolf Ehrman, and this Nazi Hermann Grappau. Yeah, he was a Nazi. Yeah, so this guy's a Nazi. So they're probably occultists too. May have some Masonic connections, but they're giving credit to translating it really good, and a lot of the today's modern sources or references is from their dictionary. But that Un Nefer right here, Rogelio, is quoting, right? This is his book, Metu Neter, Volume 1. It says, I will quote from Life in Ancient Egypt by Adolf Ehrman, Dover Press, which will prove very enlightening. You're going to be very enlightened by Adolf Ehrman, Rogelio's telling us. All right, so he's learning from Adolf Ehrman, right? Rogelio, let me show you again. Metu Neter, this is Metu Neter, Volume 1, right? Volume 1 by Un Nefer, right? He's quoting Adolf Ehrman. It says, which will be enlightening. All right, he's quoting Adolf Ehrman. Adolf Ehrman. So again, this all happened after the 1830s, right? This translation. So how did these people in the 1700s, how did they know anything about ancient Egypt? They couldn't even read it. If these guys were one of the first people to supposedly translate it good and create a dictionary for people to, have a reference. So this is another of his book. It says Egyptian Grammar with Table Signs and Bibliography, Exercises for Reading and Glossary by Adolf Ehrman, translated by James Henry Breasted, all right, from 1894. And just some examples of what's in the book, all right, as you can see. So we're getting all the translation from this German guy. Now, another of the sources that we get a lot of the hieroglyphic definitions or dictionary translations of the so-called, supposed hieroglyphics is from E.A. Wallace Budge, or Sir Ernest Alfred Wallace Budge. His dictionary is very thorough. I've used it before in some of my videos. For example, right here we got Tamara. the land of Mera, example, Egypt, Tameri, Tamera. You see the cross, all right? You see the symbol with the cross, very significant, right? We already got that. It means civilized, the civilized land, Tamera.
So I got a whole video on that symbol, and civilized land. That's what the Egyptians were trying to say when they used it. And it was the symbol for Tameri. Now you guys know, the Southern flag, the Scottish flag, the Jamaican flag. You see the symbol, you know, Confederate, the South flag, like indigenous flag, I could say, first, right? But and supposedly in ancient Egypt it meant civilized land, the civilized land, the real Tameri, Ameri, guys. Look, America, Tameri, right? Tameri, Tamera,
And again, E.A.
and
Wallace.
and it said land of Mera or Egyptian, the land of the Egyptians, right? Example Egypt, example Egypt. That's what it said.
Budge, all right? We just saw his dictionary. Egyptologist, Orientalist, and philologist who worked on the British Museum. He was the curator there for a while. He had a lot of connections. He was knighted. He was knighted for his service to Egyptology. Knighted. Not just anybody gets knighted. Now down here it says Budge was also interested in the paranormal and believed in spirits and hauntings. Budge had a number of friends in the Ghost Club of British Library Manuscript Collections, Ghost Club Archives, a group in London committed to the study of alternative religions and the spirit world. He told his many friends stories of hauntings and other uncanny experiences. Many people in his day who were involved with the occult and spiritualism, all right, people that were involved with that, a lot of people were, after losing their faith in Christianity, were dedicated to Budge's work, particularly his translation of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Such writers as the poet William Butler Yeats. William Butler Yeats? Really? And James Joyce studied and were influenced by this work of ancient religion. So William E. Budge translated the Book of the Dead, right? And William Butler Yeats and this guy were influenced by. Who are these guys? So Y.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, an Irish poet, dramatic prose writer, and one of the foremost figures of the 20th century literature. Oh, really? Because during 1885, Yeats was involved in the formation of the Dublin Hermetic Order, Hermetic teachings, Hermetic. See how it all goes around circle with these people. They're all influenced by the same people, same thing, teachings. The society held its first meeting on June 16th, with Yeats acting as its chairman. The same year, the Dublin Theosophical Lodge was opened in conjunction with Brahmin Mohini Chatteri, who traveled from the Theosophical Society. All right, it says Theosophy is a religion established in the United States during the late 19th century. It was founded primarily by the Russian immigrant Helena Blavatsky. All right, Blavatsky, and then her connection goes all the way back to Jamal Afghani, the Persian, the Sufi, just like Diop is the Sufi mystic. It all goes round circle. All these people are agents. All this Pan-Africanism based on this whole Masonic symbolism and Hermetic teachings, Theosophical, this fake Egyptian Freemasonic mythology. It says Yeats attended his first seance the following year. He later became heavily involved in the Theosophy and with Hermetism. Hermetism, remember we learned about that Hermet Trismegistus, particularly with eclectic Rosicrucianism. Rosicrucian, just like the Oscar Society, just like Rogelio was a Rosicrucian of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. During seances held from 1912, a spirit calling itself Leo Africanus apparently claimed that it was Yeats' daemon. Demon? What is a demon? It's an ancient Greek daemon, which originally referred to a lesser deity or guiding spirit, such as the demons of ancient Greek religion and mythology, and or later Hellenistic religion and philosophy. Right? Demon sounds like daemon or demon or anti-self, inspiring some of the speculations in Paramila. So you see how these people are into the occult. See, this all goes around. Again, Martin Robinson Delany was an African American abolitionist.
So right here, I'm just gonna give an example of another Pan-African. Like I got a lot, guys. I can do like a whole series on this, and I probably will eventually, just to point out certain people, in history that might have influenced certain things, you know. But they had a background that most people don't know about. So this is just one example I'm just pointing out. Again, these are excerpts from old videos that I put together. So I put them all together so that just it's playing like smooth, like it's one video. I get it, but it's from different videos. Actually, I'm grabbing all this from. But yeah, again, Martin Delany. Let's learn about him. What was his involvement with Pan-Africanism?
Journalist, physician, soldier, and writer, and arguably the first proponent of black nationalism. Delany is credited with the Pan-African slogan of Africa for Africans. Born as a free person of color in Charleston, Virginia, he was a free person of color. He wasn't a slave, all right? Raised in Chamberlain and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Delany trained as a physician's assistant. That sounds like an apprentice. Maybe his parents gave him up as an apprentice during the cholera epidemics of 1833 and 1854. This is before slavery was over. So what do you mean he grew up as a physician's assistant? Delany treated patients even though many doctors and residents fled city out of fear. All right. It says in 1850, Delany was one of the first 3 black men admitted to Harvard Medical School, but all were dismissed after a few weeks because of widespread protests by white students. All right. So this is one of Martin R. Delany's books, actually, right here. That's his picture right here. It says The Origins and Objects of Ancient Freemasonry, Its Introduction into the United States and Legitimacy Among Colored Men. Again, here's an original copy. The Origin and Object of Ancient Freemasonry. Ancient Freemasonry. Freemason. Introduction to the United States and Legitimacy Among Colored Men. A treatise delivered before the St. Cyprian Lodge, number 13, in 1853, by who? Mr. M.R. Delany. All right, from a free person of color. He's a Freemason, talking about Africa for Africans, trying to send everybody to Africa. A Freemason, another Freemason, with all this Pan-Africanism.
All right, guys. So yeah, I had a lot more I want to show, but I'm gonna leave it there. Not trying to make it too long. So the actual people who don't research, because people who don't research usually don't stick around past 10, 15 minutes. So we're trying to make it too long. I actually also have another live. I want to do a genealogy today. Another celebrity. All right, he's a famous basketball player. So I want to do that today too. So I'm gonna end this one right here. Hope you guys understood. You know, yeah. So berserker. What do you mean? Why does that matter, man? Like, you don't understand what you're even asking, man. So I'm not even. If you're asking that, then you're not ready. You're not really over. This is way above your level of comprehension. You know, if they lied about a certain place and told you it was somewhere else when it was somewhere else, I mean, the whole people, the whole history. So were we really savage? If this is ancient Egypt, like you're not overstanding, man. You're not really putting, you're not reasoning. Reason a little bit. Take it in, catch up on the presentations, verify the information, absorb it, take some time to meditate on it. That way you'll be able to actually answer your own questions, because that honestly, right now, to me, that's a silly question. Like, why does it matter? Why does a lie matter, man? No, we're not talking about who says Egyptians. Man, okay, I'm out of here. All right, we got some new people in the crowd. They got to catch up. Shout out to Rob and Dre, Beats with Bite. That's what we're going out with today. Appreciate my brother Rob for sharing his music with me. All right, and I appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Make sure to like and share the video. Again, we're gonna probably go live again today, so look out for the notification. Thanks for tuning in. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow. Hawa, Hawa.